2 people reported dead after a powerful 7.5 magnitude earthquake hits Mexico. A United Nations mission arrives in Venezuela to observe the measures taken by the government against the pandemic. And the UK is set to reopen restaurants, pubs, and hairdressers on July the 4th. From the headquarters of Telesur English in Quito, Ecuador, this is From the South, and I'm Camila Escalante. 2 people have died in Mexico after a powerful 7.5 magnitude earthquake struck the southeastern state of Oaxaca. The earthquake centered near the resort of Huatulco, but the shock wave was felt as far as Mexico City, some 700 kilometers away, where it sent its refineries and hydroelectric power stations didn't suffer any damage.
We felt it all the way down here because we were already down here. When we were down here, that's when everything started moving.
We were having breakfast and working, but still in our pajamas, and we had to go out like this.
As the face mask is new, it is not so easy to get a hold of it. So in order to get out quicker, we did the best we could.
The mayor of Mexico City, Claudia Sheinbaum, said that there has been no damage in hospitals treating COVID-19 patients in the capital.
There has been no damage in some hospitals treating COVID-19 patients, all of which have emergency power plants. The electricity went out, but the emergency plants immediately went into operation and no damage was reported.
And following the quake, Ecuador's President Lenín Moreno has said that the country's Oceanographic Institute has reported an imminent danger of tsunami off the coast of Ecuador with waves of up to 1 meter. Still in Mexico, 15 people have been killed in the state of Oaxaca, presumably due to a conflict between political groups. The municipal government of San Mateo del Mar in Oaxaca state said that the perpetrators were described as a group of 6 people with the support of a local crime boss. Among the victims were 2 women who had previously denounced abuses by one of the suspected attackers. Activists who successfully opposed wind power projects say that the mayor's followers ambushed them at a coronavirus checkpoint. The conflicts date back to the year 2012, when a consortium of companies tried to build a huge 396 megawatt offshore wind farm planned for a narrow spit of land in a lagoon near San Mateo. A United Nations commission has arrived in Venezuela in order to observe the strategy being implemented by the national government to combat COVID-19. The commission, which arrived this Tuesday to the municipality of Gran Sabana in Bolivar State, includes Peter Grohman, representative of the United Nations in Venezuela, and he's accompanied by delegates from the UN Human Rights Commission, the International Organization for Migration, and also the UN Nation Office for the Coordination of Humanitarian Affairs. They'll be analyzing the logistics and resources being deployed on the border with Brazil and Colombia by Venezuelan authorities in its efforts to stop the spread of the coronavirus as citizens arrive at different border points in large numbers. 35 people have died due to COVID-19 and 1,327 patients have recovered. Foreign Minister of Venezuela, Jorge Ariaza, has arrived in Russia ahead of Wednesday's Victory Day parade. The top Venezuelan diplomat will be attending the annual celebration and carrying out a diplomatic work agenda. Russia commemorated the 75th anniversary of the defeat of Nazi invaders on May the 8th, but the traditional parade at Moscow's Red Square was postponed this time around due to the coronavirus pandemic. And as Venezuela continues to battle the coronavirus at its international borders, we have a report from Madeline Garcia with the latest. We are at the municipality of Gran Sabana on the border with Brazil, which is now the epicenter of the pandemic in the Americas. This presents a threat to Venezuela due to the inaction of the government of Jair Bolsonaro in facing this pandemic. Venezuela receives daily inflows of its own citizens, and as many as 80% of those who enter could have coronavirus. There has been an impressive logistical approach and methodology created by the government of Venezuela precisely around the border area in order to avoid the spread of the virus within Venezuela. It's a strictly and rigorously adhered to protocol. Upon entry, they detect by holding rapid tests, and it's there that it's determined whether or not they may have the virus. In both cases, be the person negative or positive, they have to spend 17 days in quarantine in the medical attention centers, and they receive care without cost. There are also provisional tent hospitals in the case that a person were to present more serious symptoms. There are currently 2 people here right now who have coronavirus and who have presented symptoms and which are receiving extensive treatment, including the use of breathing tubes, and they are now recovering and they've beat COVID-19. So now we're going to show the testimonies, and we'll be showing the images of how the methodology has been implemented in Venezuela, as today a commission from the United Nations will be accompanying, observing, and exchanging on the protocols being followed with the government of Venezuela. And new quarantine measures have been implemented in order to fight the spread of COVID-19. These new measures are being applied in 10 states, including restrictions to mobility, labor, and the economy.
Caracas began its week without the metro this Monday, a result of the new arrangements to radicalize the quarantine in the capital and other states. The 4th phase of plan of 7 days of partial economic activity, followed by 7 days of quarantine, has begun. During the week of June 22nd until the 28th, only users who work in the prioritized sectors can circulate in the emulated metro and rail system, telecommunication, health, water, security, energy, food, and transportation. All will need to be properly identified with ID card. Now transport authorities will be running limited metro service so that sectors of workers exempt from the quarantine order can be mobile in the areas of health, food, security, telecommunications, and services.
They've taken good measures, but in recent weeks, things have gotten away a bit because people been going out in public a lot of and have not taken preventative measures, like the use of face masks, the use of gloves, that leads to people becoming infected.
The preventative measures are taken despite Venezuela presenting some of the lowest levels of contagion in the region. Last week, 24 types of economic establishments or areas were open, between malls, gyms, shoe stores, textile, banks, etc. This week, those economic sectors are called to remain closed. The quarantine is maintained along with prevention measures as countries of the region continue to see a rise in cases.
It would be good to continue, but people need to continue following rules and regulations. There are people who take off their masks or wear it just on their mouths without covering their noses. We don't accomplish anything if there are some who don't follow the rules.
The measures are aimed at stopping the coronavirus spread by taking care of health, but while progressively reactivating the economy.
In Bolivia, youth leaders belonging to the movement towards social learning. Protests erupted in working-class districts of Cochabamba against the regime's illegal arrest of the MAS candidate Lucio Escobar and the other 2 activists named Remy Fernandez and Osvaldo Gareca. This is not the first time social leaders have been targeted while carrying out acts of solidarity. Campesino communities have been distributing produce to other parts of the country amid the COVID-19 crisis, during which families have lost their income under the lockdown measures.
We are outraged. We demand that our comrades be freed. They've been unjustly arrested. They're rank and file comrades like all of us. We don't know where they are. We don't know if they're okay. This is political persecution. We demand the release of all our comrades. If they are not freed, we'll shut down the city's landfill. We will continue protesting.
We'll take a short break now. Join us again in a minute. This would have been the best March since the opening of the Pullman Cayo Coco Hotel, founded in 2015, if the coronavirus had not obligated the closure of Cuban hotels with 95% occupation. This period has, however, allowed for some maintenance and upgrades which would be impossible to carry out during normal operations. They're preparing for the reopening of Cuba to international tourism beginning in July. Both visitors and hotel workers will be tested. The sector's revenues, important to several regional states, has been notably affected by months of closures.
Of course, we have promoted our flagship product at this time, which is the hotel Pullman Cayo Coco, where the work has been directed to improve even more the physical aspect of the installation and launch a new product as soon as the epidemiological conditions in the world allows it.
And beginning on Thursday, customers who use Cuba's LTE network and who have 4G-enabled service will be able to enjoy new offers, including additional data for existing packages for the same price and other better rates, according to Cuba's telecommunication company, Atexa. 4G is available in provincial capitals countrywide, making it possible to launch these new offers. The country's Minister of Communication reported that during the months of the pandemic, the development, stability, and vitality of the telecom and broadcast network were guaranteed, taking into account a 90% increase in traffic. In Barbados, a 25-year-old photojournalist was killed on Monday while reporting on a murder. Christophe Griffith was employed with the Nation newspaper when he went to report on the death of 51-year-old Glenroy James, who had been cleaning the former residence of the Anglican bishop. James was attacked by a vagrant who reportedly slept in an abandoned building. The Nation photographer responded to the report of a body, unaware that the suspect was still at the location. He was cornered and chopped to death. In Peru, at least 30 protesters have been detained in Lima as workers were preparing to rally to demand economic assistance during the pandemic. The National Police used tear gas to disperse the crowds that were heading to the Plaza 2 de Mayo. Workers' union leader Jeronimo Lopez said that hundreds of people have been let go from their jobs due to the pandemic and quarantine measures and don't have a way to support themselves or their families. Peru has been under a national lockdown, a national emergency quarantine for months.
This shows that there is a government which restricts the demonstrations and the demands of workers in the face of mass layoffs we are suffering. And we are also pressured and blackmailed to receive lower wages. And it's already 100 days that the government has imprisoned us without any economic help.
In Argentina, a man has crashed his car into the Chinese embassy gate in Buenos Aires, causing no casualties. The 24-year-old driver was arrested and charged in federal courts with public intimidation. Neighbors said that the man had shouted that he had explosives, although an inspection by the Special Federal Police and Fire Brigade later ruled this out. The Chinese ambassador to Argentina, Zhu Zioli, was not in the embassy when the incident happened.
Sentí tipo 8, alrededor de las 8 de la noche, dos explosiones que la verdad que me asusté y enseguida me asomé a la esquina, yo vivo acá a 10 metros y bueno, vi el auto acá incrustado contra uno de los portones de acá de la embajada. Muy tranquilo, nunca pasa nada.
COVID-19 cases are on the rise in Honduras, where more than 12,000 have been confirmed, all while the country sees the collapse of the health system.
New facilities have been made available amid the collapse of public hospitals, such as the Professional Training Institute, which on its second day has proven to have limits.
There are about 10 older men who are admitted, who are in very delicate condition. I agree, but there are more people who are outside. It's like they're ignoring us, or we're worth nothing. They need to be conscious of this and put authorities to keep things in order outside.
With reports of positive cases and deaths pouring in, President Juan Orlando Hernandez was pressured into sending a message from his sickbed at the military hospital.
Today, from a hospital bed, I tell you, this world will only be one if we are united and without rest, supporting our care workers, the doctors, and all health workers who are those who will be on the front line of COVID.
Meanwhile, doctors have already experienced the loss of 5 colleagues, without counting the nurses and technicians who may have now died. They've demanded equipment and supplies for the hundreds of patients.
We are demanding better management by the authorities because the excuses and the reasoning doesn't help the sick, and our sick are dying. We need a suitable oxygen network. We need beds and places where we can treat patients in a dignified manner, who don't want to just be treating people on stretchers.
In the month of March, the Congress approved $2 million towards dealing with the COVID-19 crisis, but they said that hospitals being built would only be completed by the end of 2021.
Nicaragua is celebrating the 84th anniversary of the birth of national hero, commander, and father of the popular Sandinista revolution, Carlos Fonseca Amador. Fonseca was founder of the Sandinista National Liberation Front and a martyr for the freedom of his nation, whose legacy lives on through the country's revolutionary people. The FSLN co-founder, Commander Tomas Borge, wrote, "Carlos saw Sandino and his revolutionary ideas as is not an abstract symbol, but the guide for understanding Nicaraguan reality and its transformation." Burundi's National Assembly has approved the nomination of Alain Guillaume Bunyoni as Prime Minister. Bunyoni, who will fill the new position of the head of government created in the 2018 Constitution, was backed by an overwhelming majority in a session boycotted by the opposition. He is currently Minister of Public Security and former head of the National Police. He's been under sanctions by the United States since 2015 for his role in violence against civilian and political repression. Polls have opened in Malawi in a presidential vote, the second time in just over a year after incumbent Peter Mutharika's re-election was annulled over rigging. Some 6.8 million people from a population of 18 million are registered to cast their votes between 6 a.m. and 6 p.m. at more than 9,000 polling stations across the country. Incumbent president and ruling party candidate Peter Mutharika is facing an uphill battle to fend off a challenge from opposition candidate Lazarus Chakwera. Chakwera, the leader of the country's oldest political party and biggest opposition movement, the Malawi Congress Party, is widely tipped to win the elections after partnering with incumbent Vice President Saulos Chilima, Mutharika's ally, who's now turned to his rival. The polls come almost 5 months after a court nullified last year's disputed elections and ordered a new vote.
I'm very much prepared and looking forward to it because, as you can see, for one good year, Malawi has been on a standstill. Yes, everything has stopped, and I believe that maybe by voting this coming election tomorrow, things are going to return to normal.
I am ready to vote tomorrow. I will go early in the morning to vote to the president of my choice.
Our responsibility is to go and vote. That's why we took time to pray for our country, so that Malawi can be saved, Malawi can be preserved, that God can intervene in whatever we are doing as a nation.
We'll take a short break now and join us again after this.